Yeah. Let's start. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganpatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvanutibi Sid Sadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Guru Brahma
कितना अच्छा है ये।
Gurudevo Maheshwarah Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, welcome everyone. So we shall start this discussion on understanding the yugas. This is our regular time for doing our Nyaya classes on the Nyaya Sutras. But this time we are skipping that and we will start with the discussion on the different yugas. So basically, we have seen a lot of people discussing about the yugas and what is the length of a yuga. And there is a lot of, discussion and debate among people, which leads to a lot of people understanding the yugas in a different manner. Sometimes there are some clashes. So basically, what we will like to start with is I can invite the views of the people here also later on. There will be questions also later if someone wants to ask. So the main thing about understanding the yugas is this, that uh, first thing we have to understand is yuga is basically a unit of time, right? Unit of time. So हम कैसे समय को नापते हैं वो युग उसका निर्धारण करता है. Yuga decides how we will measure time. So
डैड
how? Yes, Manisha.
सॉरी आप क्लब हाउस में म्यूट पर हो
Oh, okay. 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 So we are just going to go into this discussion about how the yugas make sense, because a lot of different opinions are given by people and their interpretations. So when we talk about interpretations, the first thing we have to remember, which I like to reiterate again and again, is that whatever we read in the Shastras, sometimes we do not make sense of it and then we reject it. We say it is wrong. हमें समझ नहीं आता, इसलिए हम कहते हैं गलत है. But the thing is कि whenever we read anything in the Shastras, everything applies to different planes, to different people, to different places, and that is how it makes sense. Just because our understanding is deficient, that does not mean the Shastra is wrong. So whatever is written there, sometimes it will make sense in a different context. That is why Shastras have multiple level of understanding, right? So before we go into the yugas, I'll just give you a short outline of what the current understanding of most people is of a yuga. So basically, if you understand yuga, then yuga is a unit of time, right? It's a unit of time by which we measure anything. So when we are measuring a yuga, then most people try to calculate these yugas given by the measure that is given in the Puranas. And they take that extremely large figures of 4,32,000 years for Kali Yuga, then twice and thrice and four times for that for the Dwapar, Treta and Satyuga. So that figure I'll just elaborate very soon. But that figure does not match the calculations given in some other different sources also. So how do we make sense of it, right? So first thing we have to understand is that how the yugas are calculated in different ways, that we have to understand. It is given mostly in the Puranas. So basically the yuga calculation is given even partly in the Bhagavad Gita, but it is also given mainly in the Vishnu Purana, which is a major source for it. Then it is given in the in the Mahabhagavad, so in the Bhagavad Puran, so there also it is given in more than one places. And it's in different Puranas also, it's given in short form. And it's also mentioned in some later texts like the Surya Siddhant, where the calculation is given. So basically, uh, for understanding the calculation, we have to understand what a devta is. Why? Because firstly, how is the calculation for yugas is given? I'll just give you a short calculation. I think you can find it on the net also. Anywhere you can search for it. Basically, what it says is for every day of the human year, humans, for one day of the human, is equal to so there the year is calculated for 360 years, remember. So that is equal to one day of the devta, sorry, is equal to 1,000 of these human years, right? 1,000 human years. So if you calculate 1 year, then then similarly 1 year will be into 360. So 360,000 years, 3,60,000 saal. 360,000 years is the 1 year for the devtas, right? So in this 3,60,000 years, for one yuga, there is which we call the lowest yuga, that is the Kal Yuga. So Kal Yuga is 1 unit of these 1,000 years. Then Dwapar Yuga is 2,000 years. Then Treta Yuga is 3,000 years. And then finally, Satyug is 4,000 years. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, 10,000 years, right? And then we say there is a Sandhya Kal, there is a gap of 10%, right? So 100 years between every Satyug and Treta Yuga, 100 years between every Treta Yuga and Dwapar Yuga, and so on both sides, right? So basically, we add 200 years to each Yuga. So what does the calculation comes to? 1,200 years for Kali Yuga, 1,200 into 2, 2,400 for Dwapar, then 3,600 for Treta, and 4,800 for Satyug, right? So in this way, you multiply that by 360 and add 10% on both sides. So there we get the calculation of 4,32,000 years. 4,32,000 साल का एक त्रेता युग होता है, एक कलयुग होता है. Then double of that, 8,64,000 is the length of the years for the Dwapar Yuga. Thrice of that is 12 lakhs, 12 lakhs, and then another 64, 13,32,000 years. And then again 4 times, 17,32,000 years is the length of a Satyuga, right? So in this way, this is a huge measure, right? So many, we don't use this kind of measure in our normal life. So if someone says Ramji ruled for 11,000 years, how is that possible? Right? So everything we read in the Shastras, actually it is possible. But how? We have to understand. So before we go into the detail of how these yugas manifest, ये कैसे युगों की calculation होती है, how these yugas are understood, then I have shared in the group also that how we calculate. There is a 5-year yuga also. So there is a 5-year yuga and there is a 43,20,000 year yuga. So these 4 yugas, when you calculate, they together they form a Mahayuga. All the Chatur Yuga together, they are called a Mahayuga. And then 1,000 of these Mahayugas will become one day of Brahmaji. Then Brahma, another 360 days of that will become age of Brahmaji. 1 year of Brahmaji. Then into another 100 years is the age of Brahmaji. So if you go for the age of Brahmaji, it will be coming to somewhere around 4.3 billion years. So that is half, and another half you get double. So 8,64,000. So I'm not going to all these calculations. You can find there online. So now we have to understand one thing is that first thing what we understood is this year for a human is different, for Devta is different. And similarly for a Brahmaji is different. That is why, that is the main point of what we are coming to today, that the yuga is different for humans. For human, his lifespan of 100 years is his yuga. Then you move to the other beings, that is the Pitars, Gandharva, Kinnar, Devta, and then finally so on up to Brahmaji. So the yuga is different for all beings. That is the main thing we have to understand. Yuga is different for all beings, right? So first we understand the concept of time first. That then we'll be able to understand. And then what I would like to say is what I would want you all to understand. We will go into Vedanta a little bit over here. So what we have to understand is how that infinite reality, Brahman, it manifests the whole world. उस ब्रह्म से ये सारी सृष्टि कैसे निकल के आती है? How that infinite Brahman, and from that we have to understand one basic concept, that which I call that the concept of Devta, or we divide it into three aspects. Into the three aspects: Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik, and Adhyatmik. Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik. So basically, when we are talking about that infinite reality Brahman, when we are talking about infinite reality Brahman, that Brahman is manifesting as in three different ways. That is as existence, Sat, Chit, and Anand. As the total existence, जो कुछ यहाँ है ब्रह्म की वजह से है. Whatever is there has come from Brahman, right? And then as consciousness, जिसको भी हम जान रहे हैं, whatever we are able to know, that is because of Brahman. And then Anand or Anantam, it is that Brahman is infinite. He has no time limit. Or if you say, use the word Anandam for joy, तो सारा आनंद जो है, whatever joy is, that is due to Brahman only. So in the Purana, in this Vishnu Purana, there is a Rishika, there is a lady who is a Rishi. So some people say ladies were not rishis. So ladies were rishi in that time also. So Maitreyi is there. So Maitreyi is asking this question. So she asks, how did that infinite Brahman, who is without any divisions, without any parts, then that infinite Brahman came to manifest this whole world, and this whole yugas were created? That is the question she asked. So there, Parashar Muni is being asked that question, and Parashar Muni is answering that question. So how does he answer that question? First, we have to understand that infinite consciousness is has no parts, it has no divisions. उसमें कोई भाग हो ही नहीं सकता. Then how does it create this world which is full of parts? The reason it is given there is that parts, whenever something is infinite, then all the finites are present within that in potential form. All finites are present within them in पोटेंशियल फॉर्म. जितने भी तत्व हैं वो सब उसके अंदर ही, उसी ब्रह्म में रहते हैं, और जब वो उसको व्यक्त करना चाहे व्यक्त कर देते हैं, और जब अव्यक्त करना चाहते हैं अव्यक्त कर देते हैं. सो फ्रॉम मैनिफेस्टेशन टू unmanifestation, the cycle goes on. It is a cycle, right? So that is the first important thing we have to learn about the yugas. But what is the important thing? That first is that they are born out of duality. When that infinite reality, it manifests as finite. So एक से जब दो होते हैं, whenever time, concept of time arises, how समय कैसे हम कैलकुलेट करते हैं? दो चीजों के मूवमेंट से, अर्थ एंड सन मूविंग अराउंड अदर एंड सो ऑन. So whenever two things are moving with relation to each other, then you have the concept of time. So first thing is there should be two things, and then second is there should be movement, right? So that thing is there. And the second thing is it is always cyclic. There will always be a cycle of time, and it will repeat. So if 1 year completes, the next year completes, next year comes, the next year completes, the next year comes. So this goes on and on and on in cycles. So that is why creation also happens and dissolves in cycles. So how does that infinite reality become all these finite parts? You can understand by the analogy. Okay, then we shall continue. For those on Clubhouse who can hear, I think they have missed the initial part. So I'll just quickly recap. So basically, what we are talking about is the yugas as they are given in the Puranas. Then the calculation that is given there is that 1 day of the Devtas is equal to 1,000 into 360, 3,60,000 years of the humans. So in this way, 1 year of the Devtas is equal to 3,60,000 years of the human. So that is the ratio of the Devta year and the human year. Similarly, it is calculated for the highest being, that is Brahmaji, that is uh, uh, 12,000 of these years, Devta years, we form a Chatur Yuga, which is 43 lakh 20,000 years. That 43 lakh 20,000 years is 1 day of Brahmaji. And then when we have this thousand of these Chatur Yugas, sorry, 1,000 Chatur Yugas from one day of Brahmaji, then 100 years of that is the age of Brahmaji. So in this way, the age of Brahmaji will come to somewhere around 4.32 billion years for one half. The second half will be another 4.32 billion. So it will be 8.64 billion. So that is the fantastic calculation that is given in the uh, that we see directly given in the Puranas. But when we have to understand understand these yugas from a perspective of the average human or the average other beings, then one thing we have to understand is, first thing it is mentioned is that the year is different for Devta, for year is different for Manushya, year is different for the different beings in between, that is the Pitras, and so on, the Gandharva, Kinnar, and finally up to Brahmaji. Right? So when first we have to understand Yuga, we have to understand the concept of time. Right? So concept of time is always about two. The interrelationship or intermovement between two. Time is calculated by the movement of the sun and the earth, the relative movement. So in the calculation of time, there will always be more than one objects. So this way, when we are talking about more than one object, then that those objects have come from the ultimate reality, which we call Brahman. So that will elaborate soon. So when this interconnection is happening, then we have to remember that time will involve two things. Firstly, that when there have to be more than one objects, and then there has to be relative motion between those two objects, right? So that is how time will have to be calculated. So when this relative motion of between two objects is there, then further another point is added, is this motion is always cyclic, right? This motion is always cyclic. So that is why we have 1 year, then a repetition of another year, and so on. So in this way, this repetitive cycle goes on and on. So when we are talking about the yugas, then we have to understand there, the first thing we have to understand is yuga calculation is not fixed. एकदम पक्का नहीं है कि इतना ही है. It is different for different beings. हर जीव के लिए अलग अलग होता है युग. So I have given a calculation in the group also I've shared, where the 5-year yuga is given. So that 5-year yuga calculation you also can see online, when you see online, you can search for the 5-year yuga, and I think you'll find it easily. And that calculation you can easily locate. It's given in the what we call Vedang Jyotisha Yuga. So Jyotisha uses this 5-year yuga calculation, right? And so there the different unit of yuga is also there. So that means the yuga is not a static calculation, it is a dynamic calculation. उसमें एक ही unit नहीं है, अलग अलग unit है. So that is how we have to understand. So how does it come about? First we have to understand about Devta, and we also have to understand about the manifestation of from that infinite reality Brahman. उस ब्रह्म से कैसे सब कुछ निकल के आ रहा है. So that question was asked in this Vishnu Puran, where firstly this calculation of the yugas was given. So when that calculation is seen there, then from that calculation we can see that firstly the yugas that are there, they are variable, and then how it comes from the ultimate reality. So firstly the rishi, the lady which is Maitreyi, she is asking a question to Parashar Muni. So what is the question? The question is that how does that Brahman, which is Nirgun, Aprameya, Shuddha, Nirmal Atma, how that Brahman produces this whole universe? So that question is being asked. So in short, what is answered there is this: the sole reality which we call Brahman, जिसको हम ब्रह्म कहते हैं, जिससे सब कुछ निकल के आया है, that Brahman is without any qualities, but that Brahman has the capacity to manifest all the qualities. Something can be truly infinite only if has all the finites are within it. So in this way, that Brahman has all the finites also manifest, unmanifest form within it, which it manifests within time. Hmm? So when does time come into the picture? The moment the manifestation happens. जब एक से दो होते हैं, तब time आ जाता है वहां पे. So when that Brahman is manifesting this whole universe, all those other elements are present in it as potential form. अभी व्यक्त नहीं हुआ, अव्यक्त अवस्था में वहां पे है. They are present there in unmanifest form. So when all these tattvas are there in that form, then to manifest that, it employs a rule. That rule is called rhythm. That is the rhythm of the universe, you can say. That is, according to that, the different objects, they come into being. Right. So on Zoom, this meeting will end in 10 minutes, I think. So after that, we'll resume. There is a 5-minute gap after that. So sorry for that inconvenience. We'll restart after that. So we still have 10 minutes more. So when we are talking about the yugas in that perspective, from the ultimate reality, the whole universe is manifest. How it is manifest, we can understand by a simple example of the light. When you see the sunlight, you cannot see the direct sunlight. The sunlight actually, even if you go to space, because there are no dust particles, there it will be dark. You cannot see the direct sunlight. The light you can see only after it reflects from a surface. So if there are different dust particles in the atmosphere, then only after reflection from that sunlight is seen. Similarly, from that infinite consciousness or that Brahman, within it all the different tattvas are present. They reflect that consciousness, and that reflected consciousness only is the one that we are able to experience. वो जो हमारे मन से रिफ्लेक्ट होके, हमारी बुद्धि से रिफ्लेक्ट होके जो चैतन्य प्राप्त होता है, उसी को हम अनुभव कर सकते हैं. वट एवर आर माइंड्स, आर इंटेलेक्ट रिफ्लेक्ट्स ऑफ दैट कॉन्शियसनेस, दैट वी कैन observe and that we can understand, right? So when that consciousness is reflected, then we have created all the different beings of the world. So there three aspects come in. There are three aspects come in by which anything in the world can exist. उन तीन की वजह से ही हो सकता है. हर चीज जो सृष्टि में, उसमें वो तीनों चीजें रहेंगी ही रहेंगी. We call that आध्यात्म, आधिदैविक एंड आधिभौतिक. So any being that comes, जो भी जीव इस सृष्टि में बन के आता है, उसमें वो तीनों रहेंगे. So what is there? अध्यात्म, आधिभौतिक and आधिदैविक there. So when we are talking about the human body, let us talk about the human body. There the adhibhautik is the bhautik tattva, the 5 elements that manifest the physical gross body. जो हमें दिख रहा है शरीर, दिखने वाला gross शरीर, that स्थूल जो शरीर है वो हमें दिखता है, वो उससे आदि भौतिक से आता है. Then there are the sense organs within, the energies, the shakti by which we are able to perceive something. वो सब आता है सूक्ष्म शरीर में. That all comes under the subtle body. So in that subtle body, we are able to see the different 5 sense organs. Then जिसे हम ज्ञान इंद्रिया कहते हैं, the organs of knowledge. Then the 5 कर्म इंद्रिया, जिसको हम organs of action कहते हैं, what we call organs of action. So all of these are able to manifest that body. And then finally within that there has to be a chaitanya, consciousness. That is called adhidevik. So adhyatma is the inner powers, adhibhut is the gross body, and adhidevik is the consciousness. So for any body to hold together, for anybody to exist, that consciousness has to be present within. Without that consciousness, that body will break up. It will finish and die. As long as that consciousness is within the body, it will hold the body. It is a holder of the body, and it will be able to make it perform the different activities that is there for the body to do, right? So that is for what we call the human body. That consciousness, when it is acting locally, through any body, that we call jivatma. That is the jiva, the reflected consciousness that is making any particular body function. So it can be the Jivatma can be for a small animal, an ant, a bigger animal like an elephant, for human beings, and so on. And it is there in all the non-living beings also. All the non-living beings, or either even in the animal kingdom and the tree kingdom, everywhere that consciousness is holding together. The moment the consciousness leaves, that body gets destroyed. That consciousness is there in a mountain also. That it is holding together the pieces of the mountain. The moment it leaves that mountain also, it has a certain shelf life, and then it will dissipate, it will dissolve, right? So when that consciousness creates all these jivatmas, all these jivas, then it is acting locally. Its area of pervasion is small. वो सिर्फ उसी बॉडी तक फंक्शन करती है, उससे बाहर नहीं जाती, नहीं, सो वो उससे बाहर नहीं जाती. So that consciousness, wherever it associates, it is able to make a being function or exist. And that is why whenever any kind of perception happens, जो भी नॉलेज होती है हमको, whatever we know, it is through the combination of these three only. So when we are talking about the seeing power, the eye, so when we are seeing something through the eye, then what is the adi bhautik? It is the physical eye, right? It's the physical eye. Then what is the what is the adhyatmic? That is the indriya, the seeing power that is behind the eye. Without that seeing power, we cannot see, right? And then what is the adi devik? It is the devta that is behind that eye, right? So that devta is Surya devta for eye. So it is different for all different organs have different devta. So what is happening here? What is the difference between the consciousness that is holding the body and the consciousness that is functioning behind the eye? That consciousness has more area of pervasion. वो ज्यादा जगह दूरी तक काम करती है. Why? Because that Surya Devta is working through all the eyes. Whatever eyes are seeing in the universe, that seeing power behind that the Devta is Surya Devta, right? So similarly, there are different beings in the universe, like the Gandharvas and the Apsaras. So Gandharvas, they represent that part of the smelling power which is good. अच्छी वाली गंध, good smells. Then Apsaras, they represent beauty. सुंदरता है सृष्टि में. So all that comes from that part only. So all these beings have different levels of pervasion. They have different levels of area where they can cover. That is why the time period for each of these beings is different, right? So in this way, we have to understand that this the time that exists is given a calculation of yuga. For Jyotish, it will be 5 years. In Jyotish, the yuga is for 5 years. It represents the cycle that the minimum cycle in which the moon moves, and there is a part of that movement, and based on that, different astrological calculations are coming into being. So for the human, the yuga is any event in his life. So a yuga can also be in his life any small event for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, hours, days, and so on. So there the yuga is all variable depending upon what factor we are applying to, right? So the yuga can be different. Then again, when we go to the pitras, when we read about the pitras, I think most of you would have heard that the pitra lok is therefore the day of the pitras is like 30 human days. So उनके जब 30 दिन होते हैं, उनका एक दिन होता है, हमारे 30 दिन होते हैं पितरों के. So that is why in the Pitra Paksh, when they come to feed, when they come down to earth to have food, then that is for 15 days. That is half of the 30. जो दिन दिन का टाइम है, दिन में खाना खाते हैं वो. They eat during the daytime, right? So that in that way, for all beings, that the timing is different, right? So for humans, if it is 100 years, then for the Pitras, it is 30 into 100. तो उनका युग कितने साल का हो गया? How many years is their yuga? 30 into 100, 3000 years. Then again, you have that Sandhya Kal of 10% on both sides. So you add 300 both. So one Kalyug is there 3600 years. That is the calculation which we use for the different kingdoms. जो हम कहते हैं कि राम जी का राज्य इतने सालों का हुआ, फिर उसके बाद उनका हो. तो therefore the different human calculations, we use the Pitra calculation. The different generations that have come down onto Earth, for here we use that. And where do we use that big year, that 4,32,000 year and billion year? That we use for cosmic calculations. And then there is further this is the outside year. Then there is the internal year. हमारे अंदर का मन वाला ईयर भी होता है, एक मन वाला भी टाइम होता है, वहां अलग स्पीड से चलता है. So that we will continue. I'll just have to disconnect because time is up. Really sorry for that. 5 minutes we can rejoin on Zoom. In the meantime, I'll just test on. Okay, then we shall resume there. We'll start. So we were saying basically that this unit is different for different beings. So as I said, for different beings, the time is different. So all beings have different time spans depending upon how wide their consciousness is. How wide their consciousness is. So the Devta has a larger area of coverage. Huh? He is functioning through all the eyes. So that is why for him time is different. He has a time span of this. His one yuga is that 3,60,000 plus 20%, which is 4,32,000. Right. So in this way, the yugas have they function on different time scales for different beings. हर व्यक्ति के लिए अलग अलग युग होता है. For the people on earth who are carrying their tradition through generations, that there the yuga is calculated according to the Pitar calculation. Huh? The Pitar is has a day of 30 days, that of the human year, human days. So if one day of the Pitar is equal to 30 days of human. So that when we calculate, it comes to 3,600 years of human years for that Kali. That is the calculation we have to use when we are talking about human beings. जब हम मनुष्यों की बात कर रहे हैं तो 3,600 साल का युग होगा, वो 4,32,000 वाला युग यहाँ पे नहीं होगा. Right? So that is how we have to calculate. Then when we talk about the mental state and the state of when any activity is done, how it affects. So we'll let me clear that up. So as I said, for different jivatmas, their different time scale are used. So when we are talking about Ram Rajya is for 11,000 years, 11,000 साल तक. So there what we are talking about is not that he himself ruled, but the principles and policies that he created, which is they lasted for those 11,000 years. And make the calculation for Treta there. What is the calculation of Treta? Anyone can make a quick calculation. 3,600 into 3, right? So that is 10,800. Understand? Very close to 11,000 years. So there we can clearly see that these yugas, they represent variable aspects when we are talking about the year or the rule of Ramji, right? So when we are talking about the rule of Shri Ram, then we hear it is mentioned in the Ramayana. It is mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana that Shri Ram, he ruled for 11,000 years. So how? Because his rule was such that it covered the whole of his yuga. That was Shri Ram ka yuga, his yuga. And what was that yuga? Treta Yuga. So Treta Yuga, it lasted for, because Kali Yuga for humans and for our generations is 3,600 years. Similarly, Treta is 3 times that. So that will be 10,800. So almost close to 11,000. So that is why we say Ramji ruled for 11,000 years, not physically. As a human being, he came to earth as a human being. He lived for those normal human life only years. And then that is why he was able to rule for so long. So that is why we understand that when we are talking about yuga, which is actually yuga means to join, right? Jodna. So jodna, conjunction point between any two events. Conjunction point between any two events is a yuga. So that conjunction point when we calculate, then we come to the calculation that conjunction point means different to according to different people, according to different situations, according to different beings, right? So in this way, we are able to calculate this for the human beings, then for the pitras, and then next, what is the next higher range? That is for the Gandharva and Kinnar. So they are intermediate between the Devtas. So they take up half of what the Devta year take up. Why? Because through the eye, the Devta can see through all eyes. Surya Devta is the one who is behind the eyes. So as I explained the concept of Adi Dev, Adi Bhautik and Adhyatma. So for any perception to take place, we have firstly we have the Adi Bhautik, the physical eye. Behind that is the seeing power, which is the Adhyatma. Adhyatma is the seeing power, जिसको इंद्रिय कहते हैं हम. So chakshu indriya, the seeing power. Chakshu indriya is the not the eye that you see. Chakshu indriya is the seeing power, the shakti behind that. वो शक्ति है चक्षु इंद्रिय. So and then there is a conscious figure, there is a consciousness behind that consciousness or that reflected consciousness which is behind that is the devta. So for the seeing power, who is the devta? Surya devta. Without light we cannot see. That is the concept. जब तक लाइट होगा नहीं तब हम लोग देख नहीं सकते. तो इसीलिए वो सूर्य देवता रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. वो सारा सीइंग पावर, देखने की जो शक्ति है, वो सूर्य देवता के पास. So he is functioning through all the eyes, right? So that way the devta has more pervasive level of existence or time. For him, time is of a longer period. Then we come to the internal state. The mind for the mind, what is difference between mind and the body? Mind is more subtle, सूक्ष्म है. मन बहुत सूक्ष्म है. So that is why mind can connect to different levels. So it can be in a very tamas state. In tamas state में क्या होगा? tamas अवस्था में mind is thinking on one thought and thinking again and again. So what we call a time loop, cyclic. बार बार होता है. एक ही चीज को हम पागलों की तरह सोचते रहते हैं, जरूरत भी नहीं हो तब भी. We keep thinking of that same thing. So for that, for the mind, on what time scale it is running? Of only few seconds or a minute. That same thing it is thinking again. It does not go beyond that. For that, the few minutes is the yuga only for the mind. मन के लिए वही एक युग है. मतलब उसको 5 मिनट भी इतने भारी लगते हैं जैसे कितने युग निकल गए. So हम ऐसी बात बोलते हैं ना, तो ऐसे. So that is why for the mind it depends on what level it is relating to, right? Then we move further. So if the mind is then further thinking about something godly, something holy, then quickly time passes by. You meditating for half an hour, you don't even feel it. Right? So in this way, so that is why there, the higher being that you are connected to, your time matches to that higher being. So if you are connected to a devta, your mind will be moving at that speed. If you are connecting to Brahmaji or Vishnu or Shiva, same, all three same level. Then the mind is moving at that speed. So there what happens? You will hear a lot of stories in the Puranas where it is saying that someone stood on one foot and is meditated for 50 crore years or 20 crore years. Yeah. How is that physically possible? Is it possible? No. But the thing is, he did not physically meditate, but he was so mentally connected. इतना pure हो गया था उनका mind. So pure was their mind. They had connected to that devta level or that even the Ishvara level. And there, the time is going so fast, millions and billions of years. So within a few hours of human time, there crores of years have passed. And that is how, for that person who is in that meditative level, crores of years pass through. That is why for them, yuga speed is different, right? Similarly, when we are thinking about some pleasant event in our life, there also the time will move at different pace. So internally, it is different. Then कोरिलेशन बिटवीन द इंटरनल एंड एक्सटर्नल. अंदर और बाहर से हम लोग मिलाते हैं युगों को. I think most of you had heard, lot of people through sadhana, they reach a very higher state. So what is that higher state? They have increased the sattva within them. So they are moving closer to satyug. So internally we can be in satyug while living in physical kalyug. बाहर में कलयुग है, अंदर में सतयुग है. That is the capacity of the mind. So within the mind, that capacity is there. Then it can be the reverse also. Some people ask me, you are saying that in Satyug, there were only good people, there was no bad things. Then we hear about Asura also. Asura also was there. How is it possible? Why? Simply because they're again same thing. For the people who are living there, internally, their minds, their state might be different. Internally, they state. So some people might be there who are internally in Satyug at that time. but there are some people who are asuras at that time. उनका उनका मन अंदर में कलयुग में ही था. Their mind was in Kalyug at that time, right? So all those evil beings there that existed during that Satyug, Satyug में भी थे ना वैसे beings. So all that was there. So less in Satyug, more in Treta, you can say. More in Treta, and so on. So as we moved on the yugas, we can see clearly that this thing happens, and we can see that the internal yugas and external yugas are totally different. That depends on at what level the mind is connected to which being. So whatever being is connected to, that being has a certain consciousness. उसमें एक चैतन्य है. वो चैतन्य कहाँ तक उसका व्याप्त करता है? How far that consciousness of that being is able to connect or is able to spread out. According to that, the time will be different for that being. Right? So in this way, for all the different beings, we will have different times, and that is why yuga is variable. So yuga can be a few seconds, it can be a few minutes, it can be few hours, it can be 5 years. That is the Jyotish yuga. Then it can be 3,600 years, which is the human yuga according to the Pitar calculation. It can be also be the normal 100-year human yuga, and so on up to the cosmic scale. So just Srishti banti hai. So when the universe is created, you would have heard about Big Bang predicting that the age of the universe. So when you calculate that according to that, the human this universe manifesting, that will very closely match. It will very closely match. And for that, if you make the full calculation, what our science or our Puranas say or our Vedas say, they will tell you that these calculations are for this current universe. There are so many cyclic infinite universe. ऐसे कितने ही सृष्टियां आई और कितनी ही चली गई और कितनी ही आएंगी और कितनी ही चली जाएंगी. So all those calculations, all those universes that are coming and going, they are coming and going in a cycle. That is why yuga is also cyclic. So for any yuga, it will come, then it will go, then the next one will come. So in this way, first we have Satyug, and then slowly we go on to the Kalyug, then again Satyug will come. So in this way, that cycle goes and on and on. So basically, what we understand firstly is that the yuga represents a cyclic nature. It represents time that happens in the duality, or what we call saguna, as Venkatji said. Then in the saguna aspect, we have where duality comes in, where the different tattvas that are present in potential form in that infinite Brahman, they manifest, and they are reflected by those tattvas. And then we are able to, for the consciousness, that reflected consciousness, it activates different beings. Different beings come into existence, and then they do their ritual of going through their whole life cycle, and then again to merge back again. So what is birth? Birth is basically manifestation. And then what is death? Death is again demanifestation. When the consciousness or the subtle body, it departs from the body. Right? When the subtle body enters, it is birth. When the subtle body departs, it is death. That is the definition of birth and death according to our Shastra. Okay. So in this way, all these yugas, they they are calculated variously. So once we understand that, then we can understand the fantastic time calculations given in the Shastras. We can understand each and every aspect, how all of those calculations are variable. सबके लिए एक ही calculation नहीं होता है. And then how the cycles of the earth or the universe, they move. All those can be calculated based on those yugas. There is a lot of things to be said about this. It will take maybe days to say all the things, but I try to cover in short the basic concept that tells us how these yugas operate, how they operate outside us, how they operate within us, how that interrelationship happens when our mind is in different states. Then mind moves at different speeds according to the being it is connected to. In this way, all the different yugas are doing their job, right? So I think that's it for today. Anyone has any questions to ask, we can take them up and we can answer them. Anyone wants to ask anything about the yugas or anything they didn't understand? On here, Rekha ji, Shivani ji, George, Manisha, or uh, maybe on Clubhouse.
I don't know if this is a bad question, but
Hmm.
when a person meditates in
Uh,
silence,
Mm-hmm. When a person, yeah.
Yeah. So does that also have the similar timeline of, they meditate for a while, but they meditate intensely?
Yeah, yeah,
Counts as a
definitely. When you are meditating intensely, you are able to purify your mind. Then you can move it out of the grasp of Kali Yuga. You can take your mind out of the external Yuga into an internal Yuga of higher state. It may be Dwapar, it may be Treta, it may be. So when you are in a meditative state of bhakti, then you are connected to either Dwapar Yuga with Krishna or Treta Yuga with Rama. So different yugas, they have the different. That is why the different gods of these different ages, they have certain characteristics, and that characteristic, when you understand, you will understand also the time gap, time lag of how much the time will move when you connect over there, right? So in this way, in any yuga, wherever you are, you don't need to wait for so many janmas to reach that level of mind where you will be in Satyug, or where you will also go beyond the yugas. Ultimate aim is that only. You have to go beyond the yugas into the highest reality, into Brahman. So there you have to go beyond time. That is beyond time space, which is your own true nature actually. So what we studied in Vedanta. So in this way, we can, while meditating, we can move in Kali Yuga also to a higher state. Right? George was asking something.
Yes, so could you perhaps elaborate on the four different yogas
Mm-hmm.
and what distinguishes them? So how is, for example, uh, let's say Krita Yoga different from Kali Yoga?
Okay, so basically the difference of yugas according to that original calculation, we are talking about the cosmic yuga, right? And the nature of people in them, right? Right? So
Yeah,
when we are talking about the cosmic yugas, then we have this basically Satyug, where Satyug we say that everything was available through Sankalpa. So there, at that time, the mind was so pure that through the thought only you could manifest anything you needed. Yeah, so you can practically do this here also in this Kali Yuga also. When your mind is pure and you think about doing something or you think about achieving something, then that thing appears before you. Then you are able to attain that thing easily. So that was the concept in Satyuga. The mind was so pure that it was able to manifest anything, and that is called the highest state of dharma, where in the Satyuga you could, no, without any physical activity, without any physical action, you could bring things before you, or you can bring objects before you. So in the scheme of the yugas I was telling you about, there is an intermediate stage which we call the rishi. So rishi represents what? The bhava. कोई भी चीज हम करते हैं उसके पीछे एक भाव होना चाहिए, एक फीलिंग होनी चाहिए. There is a feeling. So bhava also means manifestation. Bhava also means manifestation. So the rishis are the initial ones who are appointed by Brahmaji in the form of all the 14 manus. They manifest the different yugas. So according to their capacity, their thought, their desire, they manifest different kinds of worlds. So that is why when we say about Brahmaji's one day, it is divided into 1000 Chatur Yugas. So 1000 Chatur Yugas is divided again into 14, which we call a Manavantra. So that Manavantra is 71 Chatur Yugas. That is one Manavantra. So during that time, each of them, one of the rishi used to rule. Right. So that is another division of the yugas where you can see that how when the cosmic reality, Brahman, it manifests, then it manifests in the form of different bhavas, the different feelings, it manifests the different yugas. So when we come to the Satyug, as I was saying, Satyug is through Sankalpa. Then when we come to Treta, then you need to do something concrete. You need to do some action. Karm karna padta hai. So that is the age of the yajna. You have to do some yajna and some kind of upasana to be able to manifest your desires, right? So you can do it today also. Again, same thing. Today also, when you do a havan, you do a homa with a pure intention. Then through that homa, you are able to manifest your desires. तो जब आप हवन करते हो पुत्र कामेष्टि यज्ञ, so when you do that yajna, what happens? A person who doesn't have a child is able to have a child, but sometimes it does not work. Why? Because that mental purity is not there. So for that person, even though that havan he's doing it, because he has not used the proper resources, he has not had the proper intent. We talked about this in Nyaya also. So there also we said that there are 9 factors to which make a karma effective, right? So that is how it was there. Then we, as we move further into the Dwapar Yuga, right? So there the manifestation is through basically tapasya, upasana. So there through tapasya and upasana you are able to manifest things. Then finally Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is considered the darkest. So there you have to do physically, you have to work and obtain everything through physical fashioning. So physically you have to maybe earn something, then use that money to build something. And in this way, the Kali Yuga functions where everything comes down to a very gross level. जिससे एकदम स्थूल अवस्था में आ जाता है. So in this way, Kali Yuga is functional. I hope it's clear, George.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so anyone else wants to ask anything?
How to connect between Loka and Yugas?
Loka and Yuga, again, that will be another big topic. But yes, so if you basically see about Loka, Loka is a sphere of manifestation. So different bhavas, different feelings are manifest as different lokas. So whatever your mental state or whatever be the physical state, depending on that, a world is manifest. A world is manifest. That world will exist in different levels. It can be very subtle. It can be very gross, right? So the gross one is the world we see before us, but there can be subtler realms which are above us. So they are the above us. We have the different 7 lokas. Then there are the further grosser or the darker levels, the patal, the 14, the lower lokas, the 7 lower lokas. So lokas are about place and yugas are about time, right? So yugas, they take us mentally and physically through different spheres of time by which we are able to perform whatever activities are our current sharir or our vasanas or our samskaras have built up for us. Our samskaras, they build up a world for us where we need to experience certain desires. So whatever desires we can experience in one body, we are given that body, and through whatever time limit is available for that body, we are able to experience. And for experiencing of those desires, we are given a loka. We are given a loka. So that loka is, say right now for us, it is Prithvi loka. So in Prithvi loka, we are able to fulfill these desires which we are able to build here for us. Then there will be certain desires that are not available to us in the physical world. So if those desires of our lower nature, the desires are of cruel nature, evil nature, doing harm to others, then we move down. We move down into the other lokas and we live out those desires. And then depending upon our experience through those desires, we move down or up, generally upwards back towards the lokas. And then if we have, then let us go to the reverse side where we have good desires. हम अच्छा करना चाहते हैं. So whatever good deeds we do, we say they take us to Swarg Loka. Why? Because those good deeds, they take us to a realm where we want to do better things, where we want to experience something more than what we have experienced here in this lower loka. So what does that happen? For that, we have to earn a certain currency. कहीं भी जाने के लिए पैसा चाहिए. So we need currency. What is the currency there? You would all know it is karma. Whatever good karmas we do, that karmas accumulate that currency, and through that currency we are able to move into higher lokas. And then when we move into higher lokas, there we experience the finer things of life, Gandharva Loka, Suvar Loka, and so on. So in those upper lokas, we are able to experience that. And then finally into the highest of lokas where above the Maharloka, where we have the three Jana, Tapa. So all these lokas are representing the absolute reality in the manifest state, Sagun mein. So in Saguna, in Nirguna, the Satchit Anand are not there. But in Saguna, Satchit Anand are there. So there we have the top three lokas. So all these lokas are a gradation of what we experience of our desires. If it is a baser desire, lower desire, then we move to the lower lokas. If it is a higher desire, we move into the higher lokas. Is it okay?
Yeah, perfect, Yogesh. Thank you. My takeaway today is yoga is proportional to
Yeah.
wide is the consciousness.
Yes, right.
Courage of consciousness. I think that's a good takeaway. Thanks for this.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I think we'll wind up for today. If there are no more questions, then okay. Okay, then thank you so much, all of you, for coming. Rekha ji, Shivani ji on Zoom. So nice to have you here and listening. I hope I was able to convey something good or make some sense. If any questions, you are always welcome to ask me.
Yogesh ji.
Namaste ji.
Namaste
So
ji.
it was a wonderful session, Yogesh ji. Yes,
Yeah.
Rekha ji, please.
Thank you ji. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say thank you. I couldn't join right from the beginning, but whatever I heard, fantastic. Thank you for clearing up so many things. This 4,32,000, the count of the yuga that we have. So just a quick question about that. So that is in a different unit. It is not the human unit. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is a Devta unit for the Devtas. Cosmic, yes, at the cosmic level. It is cosmic level. So for the Devta, this 12,000 years is his lifespan. 12,000 Devta years. So if you multiply that, that is the Chatur Yuga. So that will be one each of Satyug, Dwapar, Treta, and Satyug, Treta, Dwapar, and Kalyug. So 43,20,000 human years is the lifespan of one Devta.
Acha.
Yeah. Shivani ji, you've shared something?
Yeah, Yogesh ji, I've shared an image. This was said by Sadhguru, and I just had a doubt about this. You can look at the image. I took a screenshot yesterday.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, Rekha ji. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, all this is, I'm here to listen. Please go on.
Okay.
So he's given a calculation of end of Krishna. This is a very old calculation. A lot of people have used this. So basically, it does not answer the fact that why it is variable, then why, you cannot calculate the yugas as a calculation of cosmic time scales and human time scales. But yes, of course, this calculation is correct for the, as I said, for the generations, right? So if you are saying about this Kali Yuga, this Kali Yuga should be 3,600 years, right? So from that, you are talking about end of Krishna's year, which is Dwapar Yuga.
Yes,
so this
actually, yes.
Yeah.
I read this article, and he has also said this in a video.
Yeah.
He's saying that it is not like a 360-degree circle. It is like an ellipse. It is oval shaped. So if we start from the Satyug, half of the Satyug will be cross, and then we'll have a half of Treta Yuga. Then we'll have a half of Dwapar Yuga. Then Kali Yuga. Both Kali Yuga and Satyug will be simultaneously back to back from each other. And then again after Kali Yuga, it will be Dwapar. And as per his conception or whatever he perceives, he says that in 2080, nearing that, the Dwapar Yuga will end as per human calculation, year calculations.
Okay.
And he's saying that right now we are in Dwapar Yuga and it will end in 2080 or something. It's written here 2082 AD.
Okay, I'll not contradict anyone so learned as Sadhguru. But
I was just curious about this because this was something new. We have always heard about lakhs of years of Kali Yuga, so it was very difficult to connect with that number. And these numbers are still more perceivable, I would say.
Yeah. But still, the concept is
rather
this
than
is Kali Yuga right now.
connecting with.
So I
Hmm.
haven't heard of any concept
Okay.
about this being called Dwapar Yuga. But okay, someone has a different way of looking at it. But basically, if
Okay.
I told you about the 3,600 year calculation, I think according to that, you
Hmm.
can easily factor in the calculation for today's times and for Dwapar Yuga and so on. So if you go back to that time length, then currently we are in somewhere around the initial part of Kali Yuga. So in that way, you can understand that calculation.
G.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you so
basically,
much,
what we are
Yogesh.
saying is Kali Yuga should end in another, say, if you say someone says around 2000 years from now. So that calculation I
Okay.
can maybe locate for you. But what we are understanding right now is that we have to take Kali Yuga for 3600 years and not that fantastic 4,32,000 year calculation. Otherwise, there is
Yes.
no hope for us.
Yes, that what makes things hopeless.
Yeah.
Connecting with the lakhs of years of Kali Yuga, and people are saying that we have been through only 5,000 years. We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
4 lakh some years
N-
more to go.
No, no,
It's very
that is not
disheartening to
true.
listen
That
to
is
that.
for humans it is not true. For humans it is that we have to go according to our generations. So the Pitra is the unit here we are using for calculation. So that is 30 times human lifespan. So as I said, 3,600 is the age it comes for one Kali Yuga. And Dwapar is 7,200. So that is how it is to be calculated. Oh, that's what the
Mm.
Shastra is saying. It's not something I am saying. You can check there, all the
Yes.
units are given there. So it's clear there that it's given that human age is given as 100 years. Then similarly, Pitra is 30 times that, and so on. So that calculation is given there. But people just take that highest calculation because, fantastic figures, they make you, they overwhelm you or they awe you. So that is why they go by that calculation. So that calculation is also correct, but it applies to the cosmic realm. That is what I have to say. That is what it is saying there
Yes.
also, that you guys the age of Brahmaji. Then again, that Brahmaji also, there will be multiple Brahmajis. No, there have been so many Brahmajis before, and there will be more Brahmajis later on. So that is there. That is uh, what our shastras say, that there will be so many. There have been so many creations. There will be so many more creations also. Right.
G.
Yeah. Please have more of these sessions, Yogesh. It was very useful.
Sure. You guys can come up with any topic. Actually, here we do with the kids, we are doing the Nyaya Shastra. So if you want, you can join in there also. So we are into the 17th class there. So a bit, maybe you miss out something. But if someone new joins, we can do a short, crash course sort of there where you can catch up with the Nyaya. And otherwise, we in between, I'm thinking of maybe we can do some days we can do two sessions, or maybe we can do maybe one Sunday a month. We can do on some interesting topics. Like I think Venkatji asked about the lokas. So there is so much to say
Yes,
about that.
yes.
So we can do that also. We can. There are so many others. We can pick up any other topic from Vedanta also. So basically, my interest is Vedas. So these are secondary for me. I like to go in depth into the Vedic mantras, and that is my basic interest. But anything else, it comes, सब कुछ तो वेदों से निकल के आया. So all knowledge comes from there. So anything related to the Puranas or any Smriti Grantha, everything I repeat again and again. Whatever we read in the Smriti Granthas, Shruti, everything is correct. There can never be a wrong or a right there. We have to understand that it will apply only to different places. So that is how we have to understand. Otherwise, people fight about the Darshan Shastra also, that with this Vedanta is correct, Nyaya is wrong. I never take that approach because whatever I've studied, that is what I've learned also, what I've experienced also. So any topic you can pick up, we can definitely have a session. And maybe some more people join will be more fun. Right. Okay, then I think we'll wind up for today then. And we hope to meet you next week. Definitely, we'll have a class next week. If any other topic you guys can suggest in a group or so, then maybe you can share your number. I think you joined through the Brihad group, Rekha ji and
Yes,
Shivani.
yes.
Yes, I joined.
Yes.
I joined through
Yes.
the Brihat.
Okay. So there you can send a suggestion there also, or you have my number there. You can message me also anything you like to say, right? Um,
Yes, yes.
okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Yogesh.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank
Om
you.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, everyone. I learned a lot from all of you today. Thank you so much. Hope to see you all. Take care. Have a wonderful week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.